Thanks for listening to the BamaInsider.com podcast. You can subscribe to any of our future shows by simply logging on to iTunes, Google Play, and searching for the BamaInsider.com podcast. Here we go with Andrew Bone, who's going to talk Alabama football recruiting. Welcome to the program. It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's rivalry week as Alabama gets ready to host Tennessee. The struggling Tennessee Volunteers coming into Bryant-Denny Stadium. Tennessee hasn't beaten Alabama in quite some time. I'm here with Andrew Bone to break down recruiting, talk a little bit Alabama football. What's up, Bone? How you been, man?
I'm good, Kyle. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm feeling good. October 19th, a little fall settling in here to Tuscaloosa. And finally, the weather has finally dipped. My goodness, there for a while, it seemed like it was getting hotter.
I know. It stays pretty warm, throughout most of the fall. But, it's starting to feel like that fall weather. So, starting to enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, man. I wanted to bring you on the program, obviously. We missed you last week. So here in the next, few minutes, we'll talk. We'll rewind a little bit to talk about some prospects that were in town for the Arkansas game, and then we'll obviously preview the guys who are going to be in town for this big game against Tennessee. So I guess leading off, let's take a look back and talk about some of the top guys who were in town for that Arkansas game, and if you could just rattle off some notable guys that were in attendance for Alabama's 41-9 victory over the Hogs.
Well, Alabama had a few official visitors on campus last weekend. Tyreke Smith, Rivals 100 defensive end out of Ohio, and also Stephon Wynn, a four-star defensive lineman out of IMG Academy, who's committed to Alabama. Both those guys had really good trips to Tuscaloosa. It was Tyreke Smith's first visit to Alabama. I think he had a really good trip. I can't really see him being a part of Alabama's class. I think it's still an Ohio State USC battle. He also likes Penn State, but I have a hard time seeing him ending up in Tuscaloosa. I could be surprised. Alabama could have a great in-home visit with him down the road, and maybe he returns back to Tuscaloosa. I don't really see it happening, but we'll see. I think Alabama has some other defensive linemen. They have a good chance to sign, but those guys. They did have good visits. A few other guys who were on campus. Luke Ford, the number one tight end in the country, out of Illinois, made a trip to Tuscaloosa as an unofficial visitor. So that means he's going to still come back for an official visit. I spoke to him on Sunday after the trip. He said that Alabama was his clear number one right now. About a week or two ago, he had named Alabama, Michigan, and Georgia as his co-favorites. But as of right now, Alabama has a solid lead. They really like him a lot. He's been at the top of the recruiting board for a long time, and I think Alabama has a good chance to seal the deal with him. He's going to still take his official visits. I still expect him to go back to Michigan, go back to Georgia, also come back to Tuscaloosa before making that decision. But as of right now, Alabama's in very good shape with him. A couple guys who are committed elsewhere, who made trips to Tuscaloosa last weekend. Brenton Cox, the Rivals 100 defensive end out of Stockbridge High School in Georgia. Been committed to Ohio State for a long time. He seems pretty locked in with the Buckeyes, but had a very good experience over in Tuscaloosa, and Alabama's been trying to get him on campus for several months. He finally made it to a game, and said afterwards that he plans on returning to Alabama for an official visit. So that's a big name to really kind of watch out for over the next few months. Asa Martin, four-star running back from Decatur, Alabama, at Austin High School. Is committed to Auburn right before the start of the season over Alabama. So Alabama really trying to get back involved with him. They've continued to recruit him. They've continued to talk to him just about every single week, almost daily. And, still a big target for the Crimson Tide. They were really excited to get him back on campus, and I think he'll return for an official visit. We may see him back in Tuscaloosa again this season for another game, potentially for the LSU game. So we'll keep an eye on him and see where things go over the next few months. But those are some of the big names that were in Tuscaloosa. There were some underclassmen that were over there as well. But they should have another good weekend this weekend.
We're talking with Andrew Bone of BamaInsider.com. You can catch all his recruiting coverage on BamaInsider.com, and you can download or subscribe to any of our podcasts, future or present, by simply going to iTunes or Google Play and searching for the BamaInsider.com podcast. Bone, with Asa Martin committing to Auburn, Coinus Miller committing to Auburn, Georgia's building up a salty recruiting class. Are these teams beating Alabama in recruiting during this 2018 class?
Well, Alabama has certainly lost a few battles this year, and the thing is, they lose battles every year. I mean, we see it. Kids are going to choose other schools. Kids are going to choose Alabama. The good thing for Alabama is the majority of their top prospects remain uncommitted. They're still taking visits. They're still taking their time to make their commitment. So Alabama still has they have a long way to go, but they also have a lot of kids that are still out there, and I think they're going to end up. A lot of people say, will Alabama even end up with a top 5 recruiting class? A lot of people think that it's a foregone conclusion that they won't end with the number 1 recruiting class, and they may not, but I think that they're still going to sign a top 5 recruiting class. And, it's been since I think 2008. 2007 since the last time they did not finish inside the top 5 in recruiting. So it's hard to say, oh yeah, this is going to be the year where they don't do it. Well, I think we need to see the proof before we go out and say that they're not going to finish with a top 5 recruiting class, because they still have so many top targets out there. There's several 5-stars who are still out there that they are still recruiting, and most of the guys that they're recruiting are all rated 4 stars or higher. So that they're going to sign a really good class. So when signing day comes and they have 23, 24 guys on that commitment list, I think all that's going to add up to a top 5 recruiting class.
We're speaking with Andrew Bone of BamaInsider.com. Excuse me, Bone. What is Alabama going to do next season at the nose guard defensive tackle position? We don't know the future for Daron Payne, but he's playing through the roof this year. He's a junior, doing big things. What do you foresee happening at that DT spot for the 2018 as we look forward?
Well, Alabama hopes that some of these guys continue to progress, continue to build on from the years that they're having. Guys like Joshua Frazier, Raekwon Davis. You have some guys getting some really good experience this year that, as we've seen it through the years, that just about every other position that guys get on the field, get some playing time, and then the next year, once the star player's gone, they become the stars. So
next man up.
Yeah, so it's next man up, and that's how it is in Tuscaloosa. And the good thing is they have a lot of talent down there, and they're recruiting some great talent. And, there's some guys that, especially one guy in particular that's going to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend, Bobby Brown, 4-star defensive lineman from Arlington, Lamar High School, major target for the Crimson Tide. Has been at the top of Alabama's recruiting board in terms of interior defensive linemen for a long time. He's just such a key target for them, and they're really going to make him feel like, he is wanted down in Tuscaloosa, and not only wanted but needed. He's going to have an opportunity to play right away, and he has the talent to do so. And they're recruiting some junior college defensive linemen. Caleb Tremblay out of San Francisco, a major target for them that they feel like, out of Sacramento, that they feel like they can land. So he's a guy who could come in and get some early playing, get some playing time immediately coming from the junior college ranks. So there's going to be talent there. There's no doubt about it. And Alabama just hopes that they can close with some of these top guys.
Let's talk about this weekend. Who's coming into town? As mentioned, Alabama will host Tennessee on Saturday for a 2:30 kick, which you can watch on CBS. Of course, we'll have coverage on BamaInsider.com throughout the game and following the game. But who are some big-time targets who are coming into Tuscaloosa on Saturday or through this weekend?
Well, they have some big official visitors this weekend. I think that's going to be the kind of the key, thing for the weekend. This really big storyline. Bobby Brown coming into town. Especially with Bobby Brown, because his commitment's coming up here in a few weeks. He's announcing on November the 2nd. He's already taken an official visit to Oklahoma. He didn't get a chance to visit Texas, but still really likes Texas. He's visiting Alabama this weekend and then taking his final trip to Texas A&M, which a lot of people think Texas A&M could be the favorite there. I think it's really close. I think it's close between Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. He had a great trip to Oklahoma earlier in the year. Still very high off of that visit, but we've heard from different sources that Alabama's in really good shape here, but they really just have to have a great weekend this weekend and have him, have Alabama on his mind when he gets ready to announce that decision. So that's a big name to follow this weekend. Penei Sewell, Rivals 100 offensive tackle out of Utah, making a trip to Tuscaloosa this weekend. Alabama was considered the early favorite for him after visiting Tuscaloosa during the summer. Alabama was considered the heavy favorite. He was going to announce a decision in August, decided to wait after taking an official visit or taking an unofficial visit to Oregon. Now he's already taken an official visit to Oregon. Really likes the Ducks a lot, and they're kind of considered maybe the favorite to land him. But I think Alabama could end up getting back in it with a great visit this weekend. Emory Jones, 5-star quarterback out of Georgia, been committed to Ohio State for a long time. This is going to be his 4th trip to Tuscaloosa, his 2nd visit of the year to Alabama. Of the football season to Alabama. So this is going to be big for him this weekend. This could potentially be the last time he visits Alabama before making a final decision between Alabama and Ohio State. So it's a big weekend for him. Another official visitor coming into town is Joshua Moore, a 4-star wide receiver out of Yoakum High School in Texas, is actually committed to Nebraska, and we've kind of seen how things are going at Nebraska right now. I think things are pretty shaky down there, and you never know what could happen. He was a top target for Alabama for a long time. Decided to stay a little bit closer to home, but really watch out for him this weekend. This is going to be his first time coming to Tuscaloosa for a football game, and his brother has actually come into Tuscaloosa as well, Jordan Moore, who's committed to Texas A&M. So we're going to be watching these guys very closely this weekend.
Speaking of shaky, Tennessee, I mean, if they don't beat Alabama, they'll have lost their last 3 games. Butch Jones obviously under heavy scrutiny. Is Alabama battling Tennessee for any prospects within this class?
Not many. Cade Mays, who's a 5-star offensive tackle from Tennessee, from actually Knoxville, has been committed to Tennessee for a long time. And Alabama still working on him a little bit, and he's saying that he's going to take some official visits, including one to Alabama. We could potentially see him in Tuscaloosa this weekend. J.C. Horn, 4-star defensive back out of Alpharetta, Georgia, committed to Tennessee a few months ago. Really liked Alabama. A lot of people thought that he may end up in Tuscaloosa, but Alabama decided to hold off from accepting a commitment from him just based on some other guys that are still out there at the defensive back position, including guys like Tyson Campbell, Patrick Surtain, Kelvin Joseph, Nadab Joseph, Josh Jobe. Those are some big targets for Alabama, and they're really just not going to take any other defensive backs right now until they get a final decision from those guys. So he was one of the guys that could end up maybe taking an official visit down the road to Alabama. Alabama may push for if they miss on some of these other guys, but really the only other guy that really the only guy that they're really pushing hard for in terms of getting an official visit and potentially flipping is Cade Mays. And I don't really see a flip happening with Mays, even if there's a coaching change in Knoxville. I think as soon as if they end up getting a new coach, he's going to be the first guy that the new coach goes and sees. He's going to be considered the top priority to keep to hold the class together. So we've seen this so many times at so many schools. If they decided to keep Butch Jones, there may be more potential for him to flip than if they lost him.
We're talking with Andrew Bone of BamaInsider.com. My name is Kyle Henderson. We make up the BamaInsider.com team along with Tony Sakalas, our team writer. You can follow all our coverage back on BamaInsider.com. You're listening to the BamaInsider.com podcast which you can subscribe to on iTunes or Google Play. Just search for the BamaInsider.com podcast. Adam Anderson, and if he does commit to Georgia, what does that mean for Alabama moving forward?
Well, it wouldn't be a big surprise if he commits to Georgia. I think that's kind of the foregone conclusion. That's what everyone's predicting right now. It'd be kind of a surprise if he announced for Alabama. He decommitted from LSU this summer, and most people just assumed he was going to end up going to Georgia. And, Kirby Smart from the same area, so it wouldn't be a big surprise there. Alabama is in pretty good shape with some other pass rushers. They have a few guys who are currently committed in Jordan Davis and Cameron Latou. Both those guys are considered, elite pass rushers. Both guys, Rivals 100 type guys. Some other guys that they're still recruiting. Iabia Anoma, a Rivals 100 defensive end, Baltimore. Alabama, I believe, is in very good shape for. Probably has a solid lead. Tosh Lapoy actually attended his game last Friday night. Another guy is Andrews Fox out of Mobile. He's been a big in-state target for Alabama for several months, and I think Alabama has a great shot to land both those guys. So if they do miss on Anderson this evening, they still have a great shot to land Noma and Fox down the road.